Right, hello everyone. I think most of you have been here before, but some of you don't necessarily know the format, so we'll go over it fairly quickly. The rules are fairly short, fairly simple, and fairly relaxed, so pretty much endemic for the entire event, pretty much the entire Farset ethics. 7 minutes, roughly, for each talk, in an order that I'll just pull out of a hat based on what's up on the board. In terms of what we've got at the minute, we've got Willis talking about practical multimedia stuff. Brendan from the Predestination crew are going to be talking about how he got started in games development, and will of course be giving away loads and loads of that free money that they got from Kickstarter. Colin's going to be doing a bit of a session on plasma physics. I really was hoping that you were going to do the main one, because that's fine. We can work something out. And Dylan's going to be doing stuff on simulating the universe, which is going to be very interesting. So I don't quite know how wide-ranging that's going to be, but we'll make it up as we go along. And because we're a bit lower on speakers than I intend to, everyone's losing their dropouts, I'm going to potentially be committing soon. Case of hands up, and I'll guesstimate how many people are voting for each. So, well, there's only well, if you can play the voting system, then you deserve the prize. That's our opinion on these things. Exactly. Yes. I mean, I completely accept bribes in the form of PayPal, cash. Yeah, that is Kickstarter, but yeah. Right, okay, without further ado, give Willis up and get your own room.
That is.
Okay, I'm of an age when I need glasses to see things, so you know, if you see a lot of this squinting going on, just don't worry about it. Okay, I'm going to talk about practical multimedia production, and I'm going to talk about two things: content and audience. And as far as content is concerned, this subject, this course that I'm putting together for viewdigital.org has been sort of germinating for the last 5 years. I worked with the for about 30 years. Last 18 months of that time were tremendous, were great fun. I was teaching people how to do digital media workflow in a newsroom, and what we were experiencing there was a huge newsroom having to move from basically a tape-based workflow, which everybody's probably familiar with from the old days, to an all file-based workflow. So I came out of BBC, did a master's in educational multimedia, but all the time thinking, I really want to deliver up this course, because I saw two things going on here. This is IT, and a while ago this was media. They were completely separate. There was no overlap. You maybe used IT for desktop, for Word, for the office applications. Now, that's the space I'm working in. It's the space of where the media has come into IT, and what the implications that has for, in a sense, that's the direction that the Boles and the Venn diagram has moved in. IT hasn't moved. Media has had to move into IT, and that's been uncomfortable for the people who've worked in the media, because they've had to start thinking about things like metadata, backups, workflow, file size, compression, and a lot of them sort of feel, for my masters, I was doing a little set of diagrams to describe people what their attitude was to all of this, and I had this about backup, about metadata, particularly about how you create stuff on digital cameras. You create it in .mov file format. You move it into a PC or into a Mac, and then you distribute it out on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter. But you become responsible for your whole media workflow. You don't have to go to a TV company anymore and say, will you commission my program? Will you give my message? You get it out there. But the problem with that is there are hundreds and thousands, millions of people doing exactly the same thing. So let's talk a little bit about the audience that we've got for this here. Can I have a time check? Are we halfway through?
You have 2 minutes remaining.
Great. Okay, our audience is the third sector, the community and voluntary sector, and typically for them, they will have got their hands on a flip cam or some sort of 100 to 200 pound, and they may in fact have quite a few of them, 100 to 200 pound high HD point and click video camera, producing .mov files, producing an awful lot of content actually, or a very big file size. Typically then they will have usually PCs. I was going to say if they're lucky they'll have Macs, but I'm not going to say that because I've been warned about the thing out there. But the E-Rock, all that. But we have initially ruled this out on Macs, on Apples, because rolled in with iLife, rolled in with a Mac is iMovie, which started out as a bit of a toy, I suppose, has got constantly better, and is actually now a very usable piece of software in terms of what you can create on it, and it makes the whole business of uploading very easy as well. And the final thing that it got is, as I said, it's got access to YouTube, to thing we're trying to show people how to do, in fact one of many things we're trying to show people how to do, is create at high quality, edit and put it out at low quality, or an acceptable quality, it's fast download for YouTube, etc. But hold on to your assets. So going back to the thing I was talking about, backup, one of the important things that people have to realize is it's a total media strategy they've got to have. They've got to be able to know what they're creating, hold on to their raw assets, then hold on to the sort of medium assets, which are their edited program in a high quality version, and then put it out there, put multiple copies out there, and sort of, so for lots of people are going to have to think very, very differently about what they're doing. Okay, I think it's time for some questions.
That's fantastic timing because you've got 13 seconds left. Alright, open the floor for questions. Let them have it.
Come on, Una Murphy. Start off with a question.
Well, I'm suppose one of those technophobes who came from the media and have to think more about delivery channels through IT, and it's been quite an experience for me because I hate to admit it, but I started off in a newspaper on a typewriter, and I've got to the stage now where I'm, writing content for a digital magazine and coordinating that Willis is leading. So it's been a big journey personally for me, and I think for a lot of other people within the media office are engaged, I think. And I think to have a course that is, you could wheel this out to the community involved sector, but equally I think to a lot of mid-career journalists out there as well would be quite interested in it. Do you think it would be applicable to any other groups out there?
Yeah, very good question. Because in essence, whilst this is our first audience, in a sense, the strata of audience that we're talking about here are communications officers. Basically, we were talking to a communications officer from a charity yesterday, and they said, when you talk to funders or whatever about training and about, how we roll this thing out, they said, well, look, we paid for you, didn't we? Basically, the communication officer pays all this weekend, so they have to upskill. We certainly have a digital divide in Northern Ireland, and I sit on the skills panel, so and also the Media Academy panel, which is sort of the overall body for the broadcasting industry and the film industry. And one of the things that's very clear to them is that our courses are still not pulling everything together. The courses are, most courses in TV production don't have a huge amount of IT in them. They need to have much, much more. And most of the jobs that young people will potentially get in the media industry are techie back office jobs. That's where the work is. Whereas most of what the courses they want to do, and most of the young people coming in want to be front of camera or they want to be a director. But the reality is the real jobs are elsewhere, and we're not preparing people for those jobs. And that's something I think we, in View Digital, but also the industry as a whole, needs to keep on saying to the universities and colleges and the FE colleges, and they are trying, this is where the jobs are, please train people for these jobs. In fact, I'll give you one example of this. There's a guy called David Petto who started life as an actor, and his presentation style puts me to shame, but he does tours of universities, and he gets 100 kids, students in an auditorium, and says, who writes scripts? Oh, 98 hands up, we all write scripts. He says, right, who writes scripts in Java? 2 hands go up. And he says, you're the ones that are going to get jobs.
Right, thanks very much. I thought that went quite well. I was quite interested, and that's usually a good start, I suppose. Right, just a few notes that I should have probably put up in the first one. We are Ustreaming this. We're making it up as we go along, so sorry guys, the sound quality might not be great, and you probably heard anything from the audience because we're trying to use a directional mic. We'll work. That's good, they don't need to hear me.
They do.
Please say 3. 3 would be a good number.
It says 1, but I'm getting responses from more than 1 people, so. Oh, 6. 7, there we are.
Right, okay, so if anyone's really afraid of being seen by 7 more people who aren't in this room, then let us know, we'll take down the feed and it'll all be fine. But yes, right, without further ado, we had a late arrival, but now we'll save you for a couple of minutes. Colin, let's get some plasma physics going.
So, my name's Colin. I work in the low temperature group at the Centre for Plasma Physics in Queen's. So I'm going to start off with a really quick overview of what plasma physics is, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think people should be more interested, and especially in hackerspaces like this, where I think it can be used a little bit more. I'm not entirely sure what sort of background most of you are all coming from, so if I say anything that's not clear, feel free to just shout out and I'll stop and explain it. So I'll try and pitch it at roughly the right level to stay interesting, but if it's sort of too complicated or not complicated enough, just shout out either way, and happy enough to change that. So what plasmas are, basically, is the fourth state of matter. So everyone knows about solid, liquid and gas, but in actual fact they only make up something like 0.1% of the visible universe. Plasmas are sort of something like gases, but you sort of dump lots and lots and lots of energy into them, to the point where the electrons get stripped off the atoms, and you then have something that sort of looks like a bright glowing gas that will respond to magnetic fields or electric fields. And what's really cool about that is, well, first of all, the applications. So you use them a lot in things like fusion. We can explain most of the astrophysical universe kind of in that way. But an awful lot of the research that certainly I'm involved in, and that's sort of going ahead now, is in something called low temperature plasma. So that's to do with plasmas where you've got ions. They will sort of tend to transfer most of the energy fairly efficiently, and that's because things of similar momentums can kind of do that. Whereas if you imagine taking the cue ball off the pool table, replacing it with a marble, and then firing it into the same, like another snooker ball, it just bounce off. It won't transfer very much of its energy, because when you have things of massively different sizes, momentum transfer is not very efficient anymore. So what this means is, well, basically if you have material, its bulk properties are sort of largely defined by its structure, so the atoms and how they're arranged, whereas the chemistry is defined by, or dictated by, what the electrons are doing. So what we can do now with low temperature plasmas, and we're increasingly learning more and more how to control this, and that's where most of the research in low temperature plasmas is directed, is getting better control of this. But what we can actually do is to vary the way in which we put an energy into the plasma. So in general, that's an electric field of some sort, or something like microwave radiation. But this means that we can control the chemistry of something and basically perform really, really high temperature chemistry, something that you'd normally have to do at thousands and thousands of degrees, but you can do it at room temperature, or certainly it might get a little bit hotter, but temperatures that are down about 50 or 60 degrees. One of the places that this is very useful, you might have seen, there were a couple of people from my research group on the news, I think it was a couple of months ago now really, and they were talking about using this to sterilise things. So that was just after that recent MRSA outbreak. They were able to use we've basically been able to show that you can use some of these plasma jets to effectively sterilise surfaces. Other places that it might be used are so surface treatments in lots of different things. You do it in textile industries. You can treat threads and stuff, and that's how you go from water, things that will absorb water, to things that repel water. It's one of the ways you make waterproof fabrics. You can treat medical implants so that they become what's called biocompatible. That means if you have a hip implant or a pacemaker or something implanted, the reason your body hopefully won't reject that is that we've plasma treated the surface to give it sort of appropriate properties. And the thing that I'm really interested in, that I think is most interesting in most of this community, and that isn't really exploited very much, community are quite interested in would be 3D printing. But to me, one of the big flaws of 3D printing is that at the moment what you can do it is very limited. So you can print something with plastic, and plastic, okay, you can pick from quite a wide variety of shapes, but the properties of that plastic that you're using is relatively boring, if you're honest. I mean, it doesn't actually do anything. If I want the plastic, if I want a model, I can change the shape of it from top to bottom, but I can't say change, I want it to absorb water at the bottom, I want it to repel water at the top. I can't say I want it to be quite springy at the bottom but stiff at the top. I can't say I want it to be an insulator at the bottom and then I want a conducting pad around here. I can't say if I want it to have different properties in contact with different chemicals. And all of these things are things that you actually do want to be able to change, which is why in the real world we don't make everything we use out of plastic. We make it out of a whole variety of materials. So yeah, that's what am I like for time?
A minute and a half.
Left? Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that's maybe quite. So yeah, that's kind of not the thrust of my research per se, but certainly one of the places I see this going, and that's why I think that certainly the hackerspace community should be more interested in plasma physics, and particularly low temperature plasma physics. So probably quite a good place to open up for questions there, if anyone has any.
Yeah, can I just ask, so what do you think the starting point would be for going towards using low temperature plasmas in a small scale manufacturing sense in a hackerspace? Sort of practically, what would you need to get started
to do it? Well, at the moment they use plasma jets, like atmospheric pressure plasma jets, to do things like sterilize food and to treat. So in the textile industry, you treat the threads as they're going in, or with a whole bank of them. So it would be something similar to that. I think if you had a plasma jet set up directed onto the plastic as it's being deposited, and you're able to move that around, you could certainly change things like so it looks like something like this.
Yeah, the meniscus.
Yeah, and the meniscus goes like that. We're changing the sticking coefficient, we change the shape of the meniscus, so it would go like that instead, for example. That's because it's attracting water, that's because it's repelling water when it goes down like that. And that's also what makes, say, coats water repellent. And then beyond that, I mean, that's a surface property, and there are other surface properties that you can change as well. So it would depend what you were making and what you wanted to use it for. If you wanted it to interface with certain chemicals and be either reactive or non-reactive, you could do similar things. You can vary. So the way a plasma jet or any sort of plasma setup generally works is you've got a tube. You've got electrodes around the tube. You apply some sort of voltage pulse here in some shape, and you flow gases through this. So the things that you can change are the gases, the rate that the gases are flowing with, the relative concentrations, and the nature of this pulse. And in changing all of those things, you change the chemical reactions that happen here and all out here. And then, so you're basically changing the products that are coming out at the end, and those products are basically different chemicals that will then stick onto whatever it is you're trying to produce. It will stick onto the plastic, or react with the plastic, and obviously it depends what the plastic is, and it depends what gases and stuff you're using, but that's where you would start.
So what kind of products do you have in mind, as in, right, we're not talking about the process, but what toys come out at the end?
Toys, well, it's fairly early stage at the moment, if I'm honest. So it's quite hard to, but it's basically, I mean, it's more a case of you provide the tools and see what people do with them. It's you basically giving people more different knobs that they can play with and see what they can go out there and build. But off the top of my head, things that you currently can't produce now are well, and I'm not sure if 3D printers, I presume you can't use tools that you put in. The tools that you make in 3D printers aren't set up, and certainly you couldn't take them into an operating theatre. No. In surgery, for example. Those cheaper, and that's certainly one of the things that you could potentially use it for.
Does it leave any charge as such behind on
No, it doesn't. I mean, in fact, so
Signals can be used, as a spray or whatever, some RF signals for through wireless environments.
no, it's not. By the time the chemistry finishes, it's not. I mean, you do, because you're ripping the electrons and the ions apart. By the time you get out here, you're not dumping energy in anymore. So you've got the chemical reactions that are driven by those electrons and ions, but the lowest energy state is where they're together, where they're attached to each other. So once you stop putting the energy in, they recombine again, so they become uncharged again.
You said this is low cost. Could you put in more numbers of that?
Plasma globe costs what, like 15, 20 quid. Balloon gas, which is the easiest thing to do it with. What's the other balloon gas would be? Yeah, so you could start putting a pulse generator of whatever kind. You're talking about voltages of a few thousand volts, so a few thousand volt power supply is the extensive bit really. So you're probably talking a few thousand.
Are you saying that you were
with the plasma
you could do this with a plasma globe?
with the plasma globe power supply, you probably could do it, yeah. So if you want to do it safely, because of pounds, you want to do it bare minimum, 100 quid. Like we're talking, tinfoil, duct tape, and stuff well back. You could do it for 50.
And this is something you can just have a wee box, the size of a bottle, a can of, or a box of Coke cans or whatever. You can just have a little plasma generator in a briefcase and carry it.
The more you spend, the smaller you can make it, and the finer control you can have. But yeah.
I'm germophobic. I need it to sterilise.
Yeah, guys, anyone speaking for the audience, if you don't mind just speaking up loudly, we'll get picked up on the mic for anyone who's watching, rather than swinging the mic around each time.
Is there such a thing as a plasma rifle, or is that entirely fictional? I played Fallout and it was a really good weapon.
It's not fictional, but it's not the same as it is in Fallout either.
Well, is it like that? Is it like applying?
So I don't know entirely because it's not one. The people who actually make these things, they annoyingly enough, they don't publish their schematics online. So plasma weapons exist. That is a field of research, but it's one of those fields where people go off into it, you never hear from them again. Not that they're dead, they just can't talk about it.
So what if I took a good high power laser and combined the beam so that it got past the breakdown power of air and created an ionized track on the order of sort of milliseconds and then whacked a massive voltage?
I think there's a group in France that have actually done this with a Tesla club. Yeah. What they do is they have.
The French are responsible for plasma weaponry and navistags.
If this is your Tesla, that'll be useful. If this is your awful drawing of a Tesla club, and you've got like lightning bolts shooting up here, they set up. We have yellow. Do we? Okay. They set their laser up here, shoot the laser across here, create your ionized track here, and then once this disappears, it leaves the ionized track. So your lightning follows that. So you get a straight line, bolt of lightning.
So you can go through the word lightning.
So it's not a plasma rifle, it's a lightning gun?
Yes, that is one type of plasma rifle.
I played Red Alert 2, that was it.
That was a lightning gun and Unreal Tournament, wasn't it?
Probably, yeah. It was also in Red Alert 2, although I don't know if they used the laser in Red Alert 2 or not.
So this is like the ultimate sort of taking flamethrowers to the ultimate extreme. You have that trigger of the Tesla gun, you fire a laser through it. Actually,
that needs quite a big laser, but you could do that in Hackerspace as well.
And for those viewers joining us from the Ministry of Defence.
Yeah. Don't try this at home.
No.
The range of that was a few meters, but bigger laser, longer range.
Where's Killian?
Yeah, we need to get a laser physicist in to carry you two up and then see what disaster happens. Well, this is it. I need a red laser, a blue laser, a white, and one orange.
Please give me
You
some
can't.
warning so I can get out.
You seem really
Sounds like culture bomb.
Right, do we have any more plasma physics stuff? Someone must have a stupid idea.
I think we've just been over that.
Daniel?
Queens of testicles, don't they?
Yes.
He was the guy to talk to with this probably.
People somebody has 5 more figures. No, see, that's only if you need a lightning gun that can do the airwolf thing. No, MacGyver thing. Okay, right. Glad to be corrected. Right. Everyone happy? Alright.
Actually, speaking of doing the MacGyver thing, one other thing you can do is you can actually create like a really small lightning bolt type plasma just in air. And the way I would say it, because you have just a whole bunch of charged ions, if you apply the right electric field to that, they'll oscillate sort of according to that field, so you can actually get effectively a speaker made just out of air. But because the lightning bolt itself, if you want, is basically acting as the cone, so you've got basically zero inertia in your cone, so you've got perfect high frequency reproduction.
So can we sell this to the guys who buy £500 HDMI cables?
Yes, but
You'll get 100%.
as it rips the air apart, it also produces ozone, so you won't get much. You kill them, and you won't get much repeat business.
I love that that's your concern. All
But
right.
yeah, you could.
All done? All right, thanks very much, Colin. Right, okay. Our nice little display for our title has been heartlessly destroyed, but it wasn't showing up on the webcam anyway, so it doesn't matter. Right, okay, so when are we due for pizzas? 1:45?
I think we've got time for one more.
Yep, Mr. Bole. We have.
Because I have a fair bit of show and tell, so I'm just rummaging around to see if things look interesting.
So,
I love it when you say
Queen's SUVP Clubs and Societies, Major Domo of Dragon Slayers, and that's why he gets an excuse to make all these toys. But
like
yes.
I needed an excuse in the first place, but okay, the title of this talk that Bolster kind of nagged me into producing is Fun with Lasers. Not sadly the type that you can create lightning guns with, but the type that you'd find these days in secondary schools, but since we're all sadly older than that by now, the closest place I know of with a laser cutter is the Fab Lab just through a couple of slightly contested areas and up the Antrim Road. The reason that the reason that Fab Labs are cool is because they have all this stuff that we used to have access to when we were in school and doing technology, but we weren't able to play with unless you made good friends with a technician, and even if you did, you still weren't able to make the really cool stuff because it was dangerous, or because it cost expensive materials and you couldn't bring your own and all of that. Now, Fab Lab is a project started by MIT some number of years ago that is designed to bring all of this manufacturing kit that is... you think of the stuff in a Fab Lab as a home workshop compared to a proper factory that builds cars. They're smaller scale, but with sufficiently good equipment you can still make the same level and quality of stuff, and that's what they're trying to do, is get a lot of people interested in this and aware of the techniques you can use with personal fabrication, because 5 or 10 years time, we were talking about 3D printers only using plastic, but 5 or 10 years time you will be able to design something with SketchUp or some free CAD program and have it printed out in metal just for fun, because a piece of your pram has broken and the manufacturer wants to charge you £50 to send out a replacement. You can spend 20 minutes designing it, have it printed out for you for a tenner, and your quid's in, and you also don't have to pay rip-off charges. That's an actual example. Okay, it was plastic rather than metal, but there's people in America already doing that kind of stuff. There's people 3D printing and laser cutting stuff for profit. The subsidiary title is Fun with Fab Labs and a question mark profit. It is possible to use the equipment up there to make money. I have yet to find a reasonable way of doing so, but I'm missing another bag. See that white plastic bag? Someone fill it up? So FabLab is open to anyone. You have to book and turn up at first so they can talk to you, find out that you're not a complete loon, and that you actually have a bit of sense so you're not going to set anything on fire.
Daniel.
Yes.
How did you get in?
Because I helped them unpack the boxes, and so they don't. Andrew and I were actually there on day minus however many when they were sending people over from MIT to put the place together. They didn't have a manager. Well, he'd just been appointed at that stage. They had a couple of folks from MIT who were freaking geniuses, let's be honest, coming over to unpack half a shipping crate worth of stuff that's now a fantastic place up there. I haven't started scratching the surface of what you can do, but I'm going to try and give a couple of examples of the cool stuff that I've made and hopefully point some of you guys in the direction. So if you've got an idea, you know what would be really cool, or why don't they do that, then you can actually potentially do it. Those guys up there will help you where possible, give you access to equipment and give you pointers if your things keeps going on fire. I haven't actually started any fires up there. I have had some smoke, but not any fire. The thing I've been spending most of my time with is the laser cutter, as you can see by all the random strange bits of wood sitting in front of me. Laser cutter is very simple. It's just a relatively high-powered CO2, well, 40-watt CO2 laser on a XY plotter. Exactly like it can work like a printer to burn patterns into stuff, or it can just go around in pretty patterns and cut out shapes. So this strange-looking contraption here is something I've done for Dragon Slayers. We have an awful lot of board games. They're the Gaming Society up at Queen's. And some of them are fun but have an awful lot of untapped potential. The box I have sitting there, Pitch Car, is a really, really simple and horrifically frustrating game where you take a little disc and you build a car, or you build a track out of pieces of wood, and you try and flick your disc around the track faster than other people's. It sounds really boring when I put it that way, but the screens we've had coming out of that, I think it's making probably this game with well as a game like better. But that's all flat, and that's very I did was use everyone's favorite tool nowadays, Google. Never mind SketchUp. Just went onto Google and discovered that people have already started designing additional parts for Pitch Car. That all you need, they have just plans, so you could actually print them out, stick them on, and cut them out with a scroll saw. But that's boring and takes a long time and lasers. So instead, using free software, Inkscape, to edit this, save it as a PDF, and then you connect it to a laptop and actually send this to the laser cutter like it's a printer. You put a sheet of plywood in there. This is about 6mm ply, and it will. You tell it how fast to move and how much power to use, and it will just go around and it will cut out whatever shape you can think of within the material limits of whatever you're using. And then I now have an even harder piece of track that creates even louder screams for people when they're playing Pitch Car and Slayers. That's awesome. There are somewhat more utilitarian methods. This particular box contains a card game, which is an awful lot of fun, but it's just designed by some guys on the internet. They've got it printed somewhere, and when you buy it, it comes in a piece of shrink wrap plastic. There's no box. You can keep it together with a rubber band or whatever, but then cards get scuffed and whatever else, and it doesn't look so pretty. So instead, using other free software, a box maker, you go online and say, I need a box that is 35mm by 60mm by 40mm, and it will automatically design this neat little tongue and groove thing that you might be able to see, give you a pattern. You can actually tell it how wide your laser beam is, so it will make a perfect snug fit, and then all I need to do is make a couple of cosmetic alterations and put it together. Cosmetic alterations, I've done stuff like scan in the rules card and actually etch that on, so you don't need to be looking anywhere except right in the box for what it does. I've put the Dragon Slayers logo on it, I've put the name of the game on top, and that's as simple as it goes. We now have boxes for card games that we otherwise would, in an environment like Slayers, be losing cards left, right and centre. And this took me maybe half an hour faffing around on Inkscape and Boxmaker, another 20 minutes to scan in the images or find them on Google, and then 20 minutes of cutting on the laser. And it's really, really simple and an awful lot of fun. All this background, all this stuff. Where some of the potential profit comes in, you will find a lot of stuff these days sold online. Plastic cases and crafty things on Etsy has been made with laser cutters because they are now at the stage where, okay, you could buy a car for cheaper, but it would be a really crap car. So you can get an entry-level laser that's the size that can cut out A4 sheets for several £100, well, probably about £1,000, and it can do some really cool stuff. This little see-through piece of plastic. Again, I haven't, a lot of the stuff here, most of it really haven't designed because I don't have quite the level of design nous or the free time to be able to do all of it, but I take ideas that people have put up for free on the internet and make them and do cool things with them. So, who has a Raspberry Pi here? Lots of them. Who has it in a piece of, in a cardboard box or an old cigarette packet or? This is designed by Adafruit Industries. What's the time like, by the way? Sorry.
I'm just letting you roll.
Okay. Because lasers. This designed by a maker company in America. They put the design up for free, so anyone with a laser cutter has been able to go cut this out. Again, pass this around. I'll pass this around. You can clip it together, and it just works. If I pass it around even unclipped. This is something that people are selling online for £10 or £15. You can get a custom etched. I have one that Bolster asked for here.
Oh, I did not.
With an etch of a silhouette of a famous figure in technology on the front of it. We'll pass it around.
To explain the rules that I gave you.
We'll pass it around and see if anyone can guess who it is, and then I'll go back to that later. Dragon Slayers has some Raspberry Pis because you can play Quake on them, so they've got the Slayers logo etched on them, and it's, again, all of those things take you maybe 10-15 minutes once you have the hang of what you're doing, and then you set it on the laser and cut it out. I really love Fablabs because you can just come up with an idea and implement it straight away. I've got some stuff that I haven't actually designed myself, but everyone knows about Warhammer or some kind of tiny little fighting plastic man's game. We have lots of them, lots of people who play that at Slayers, but having enough buildings to cover a dozen tables is really, really annoying on space and inefficient. So what we've done here, this is Killian, last year's president, is going on. And we have a building here, and inside this building, he has other buildings, and inside that building he has other buildings, and all of that's designed in SketchUp for free, cut out together with little notches on it, and so we now have more terrain than we know what to do with that takes up far less space than it used to. I've done similar stuff here with little walls, and it's all very cool. Some of this in fact illustrates the virtues of prototyping before you go into mass production. Because if I can dig out from somewhere in here my original walls, oh well, they're buried somewhere in there, but somewhere in here I have the original walls for that, and then I did a whole sheet of them, maybe 3-4 pounds worth of plywood, cut it all out, stuck it together, then put one of the tiny little fighting mans on it, and I came up to there on them, because I'd scaled stuff wrong in Inkscape and hadn't checked it until I printed it all out. But the nice thing is, I've wasted an hour of my time and I've wasted 3 or 4 pounds worth of plywood, but you can keep doing that. If I'd been more sensible, I would have cut out one wall first and tested it. You do that over and over again, iterative design, until you finally have a design that will work and you mass produce it. I have quite a few Star Wars inspired Christmas decorations in here because lasers and coolness, and why not. Some of them, all of them were originally.
You gotta show them off.
Yeah.
Are you going to do that for Valentine's Day as well?
Yeah, if you can come up with a design, you can have it.
She's here.
Yeah. Thanks. Spoilers. Holding up the camera, I have. Again, designs taken, well, some of these designs taken from people who laser cut them, some of them taken from stencils designed to be cut out, and some of them just taken because you can take a picture of a stormtrooper and clone it around 6 times. All of those cut in wood first to check that actually work. I have Stormtrooper, this isn't a Farset Cylon, it's an Imperial Guardsman from Star Wars, which makes more sense when I hold up the red version. You can see that there were some problems with this when it went to plastic. Plastic's more brittle. It's all about finding out, testing stuff and seeing what you can do. I tried some TIE fighters only to discover that the laser can cut finer than the wood can hold together. So the wings on these look like they've disintegrated, and so instead I went to full-size ones. I had a fleet of these flying on my Christmas tree. My mother was less than impressed, but and all a full-time placement at the minute, and if I actually had a bit more time to spend up there are people selling the plastic version of that Stormtrooper I sent around for $5 each on Etsy. You can do this kind of thing if you have an idea, something crafty to sell. That would take maybe an hour to cut out a dozen or 18 of those things, and you can sell them for $5. You can make potentially sort of 60 quid an hour for just laser cutting stuff, provided you have the audience for it, and that's where the profit can come in. The Fab Lab guys are pretty dead on. If you're going to be making a wee bit of money out of what you're doing, they'll ask you to buy your own materials rather than using theirs, or they'll ask you to make them some stuff that they can use to show off, or use some skills that you have that they don't have. Might just be spare time. Do some projects for them. I mean, they are getting much better on the laser cutter shop bot, which is something the size of a table you can build your own furniture with, or the 3D printer. But if you have some electronics knowledge and want to solder some stuff together for them, they'll be most appreciative. I can't state enough just how cool you can get with 3D printed stuff and laser cut stuff. This looks a bit weird, but this is, have you your Nexus handy, Bolster?
I thought we were going to say that.
Well, I've got mine in my pocket, but I don't want to take it out of the case. This is a convenient little stand for the Nexus 7, designed by someone, put up for free on Thingiverse, which is a site I spend far too much of my time just browsing. And designed specifically so you can drop a charging cable in here, connect that up, and so when you just drop your Nexus in, it's automatically charging and sitting beside your computer. Someone just had an idea. They had a couple of hours playing around, cheers Bolster, on a CAD program, and then you have a solution rather than having to go out and buy an expensive iPad stand that doesn't actually fit the Nexus, because there's lots and lots and lots of really expensive iPad accessories out there for some reason. It's like they're mugs. There's not so much for the smaller tablets, but you can just do that. You can make stuff. I'm trying to think of what else I have in here that's interesting for show and tell. Lots more TIE fighters, actual Christmas decorations that were hanging on my tree. Some of them I'll pass around the Vader and Stormtrooper. You'll note that the went around is cuts on it. These two that I'm passing around are slightly different. They took a bit more time. They were cut and then they were etched, so they actually have a pattern in them. I went over it with a marker. You wipe off the top and you have what looks like sort of embossed or engraved decorations. It adds a little bit more time, but you can still turn out a sheet of 12 of those in a few hours and then have yourself some fantastic Christmas decorations to give away to friends or to flog to mugs or to do whatever you fancy with. There's more than just Star Wars as well. I've got Boba Fett here, I've got some Transformer ones. All of these just things taken from people online. I've got some Yoda ones that I am in the middle of trying to get working myself because it's a design I did, and you will have to prototype lots. But the TLDR of all of this, because Pizza's here and I know where everyone's priorities, including my own life, is that if you have an idea and it's something cool and you want to be able to make it, the Fab Lab guys are probably able to help you out if there isn't already the kit down here at Farset. I've got more stuff in here I didn't get to show off. 3D printing. There's people who have developed entire board games and miniature games with 3D printed parts. I've got a couple of models in here, a little castle or little tiny fighting men about that size. Oh. Tiny fighting men about this size. 2 whole armies that fit in your pocket, and all the pieces, all the board designed to be 3D printed out and just played with a couple of dice wherever you are. All of this stuff now is on the internet. And in people's heads. They're giving it away for free because all of this is new and shiny and exciting, and the best way to get lots of new stuff going on, like in the early days of programming, was to share ideas and give it away free. In 5-10 years time there could well be a chip in a 3D printer that means you can't print something out unless you've got a bloody license for it, but now that is not the case, and so now is really the time, if you have a cool idea, to be able to take the time to actually design it, to make it, and to make something cool. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Quick one for beginners. How easy is it to get started with 3D modeling? Some of these type of things?
3D modeling and well, both 3D modeling or laser cutting is really, really easy to get into because SketchUp is free. It's not quite owned by Google anymore, but it's a free modeling program. It's everything you see if you go into Google Earth. All the buildings and stuff were designed by amateurs, or for the most part. Any neighborhood to the houses will have been 3D modeled by people living in there. Tutorials online. There are more CAD programs than I can list, and most of them cost thousands of pounds, but there are free ones that you can just make a 3D model, export it to something that Ultimaker will be able to print, test it, discover that you didn't make the wall thick enough, or you've got an overhang and it hasn't worked and you have to go back and print it again, repeat that a couple of times, and then have something that was in your head a week ago in your hands. Tutorials out there. SketchUp is the easy one to start with. For flat stuff, Inkscape is the way to go, but again there are sites There are sites that will do all this for you, even up to the printing and cutting. Shapeways is one, Ponyoko is another that will do laser cutting, and they have tutorials on how to design your ideas. You can steal those, and rather than pay them to do it for you, cut it out yourself or print it out yourself.
Membership fee for FabLab?
FabLab membership fee, not at the minute. There's two FabLabs in Northern Ireland, one in North Belfast and one in Stroke City. Funded by some EU peace money, so of course there's one in each. And because of that, they won't charge by the terms of that. They're not allowed to charge you for use. They are quite limited in time. I've noticed over the past couple of months that finding a free slot on a Friday afternoon is harder, and if anyone books from 3 to 4:30 on the laser on a Friday, I'll be very unhappy with them. But it's free to just go along. You can give them a call. I can give you the email address of the guy in charge and just drop him a line, say, here, I'd like to come in because I have a cool idea for something. I go up there and there's artists working on projects. They're etching into slate. They're actually etching, writing into aluminium and all that kind of thing. Just people who don't have the technical ability, but they're being walked through it by the guys up there and learning as they go. It's really cool stuff. I could geek out about this for hours, but any more questions? Pizza. There's lots more stuff up here, guys. If you want to come up and have a wee nosy, I'm here for another 10-15 minutes before I have to vanish, so. And if I could have my decorations back, that'd be nice. Right, yes. By the laser itself. There's blogs online. There's a guy who bought himself a laser cutter a couple of years back and decided last year to do an item a day. So you can go back and find everything from, he's done etched boxes, he's etched wedding invitations in card, because you can cut through card with it as well. You can laser etch into t-shirts if you set it up right. So there's one on Instructables, I think, that has a lacy effect on the t-shirt collar because you cut it off. I'll be back in 1 second. In fact, you guys probably want to go
Here, they're like not there. Maybe there, but
That's pretty fucking cool.
hopefully there's like the gym.
Pardon me, I need to go and wash my
Yeah, no, I
hands
need to
before start staring at the trees over there. So I printed out, I think, probably 9 of these before they were literally shutting the doors and kicking me out. But a whole sheet, a 5-pound sheet of acrylic, you could do 18 of these things. They're still trying to create within one thing. The primary goal of Fablabs, their mission is to getting kids into it, so we can get use out of it, but we're not their core audience. Still, we get to play, so I can't complain too much.
occasionally in a room, but usually it's not someone I'm an physicist, so I was
That would have been too perfect.
Colin Kelsey. And then Dylan's.
Hello.
Yeah.
5 years, yeah. No one.
It is, well, it's part of it. And then the rest of it. I mean, I can see the kind of
So the other thing is for us, yes, we are sort of not everybody is. So it's quite like that's why we still have it. That's why we're still
a lot of those beats out actually
No, that was exactly what we've got no
Not a problem at all. That was fun. I know that feeling.
Never seemed good long before I arrived here. I was just in love with it. That talk came like 10 minutes late. You have to remind it what it's emotional information.
Yeah, it's fantastic. In fact, can I just draw all this stuff? I'll be back here later on. I'll over there for now.
This is targeting.
I approve. May as well just leave these sitting out. You can see the problem with the original iteration of that. I mean, yeah, maybe if I'd scaled it up
Due to a couple of late additions, I will be, thank goodness, cutting my suicide attempt later. So we can just continue the conversation online. So let's see, who do we want to go for next? We finished off with toys last time, so let's go on with games. Brendan, you're up.
I have no idea how I'm going to follow laser Tesla coils.
Your ships aren't lasers, it'll be fine.
Yeah, but we can't show you them. Tina will just draw lasers, okay?
I don't think anyone will have any problem with that.
Right. So I guess I'm just going to kind of talk about what I've been up to. We're making this Space 4X game called Predestination. I've been trying to make it for the last year, and recently went on Kickstarter to try and pitch for some funding for it. Had an overwhelming response. Got 200% funded. We only asked for 25 grand. We ended up with 50. So we've got like a year to make this game. We're well into it. So I just want to talk a bit about how we got to where we are and kind of the things that you like, the pitfalls that you can get into when you're starting game development, the types of people you should not fucking listen to. So I suppose that's our company logo.
Well, I can't draw, but
I don't think there's a heart on it though.
no, that was just for added effect.
And there's a score.
Oh yeah, I designed this logo and I've not forgotten. Great.
So I kind of started developing games. I will be honest, I started developing games in the middle of university. Anytime I wasn't working on anything university related, I'd be making games. University, other science, computer science was the end, was like support for that. Kind of for my master's project, I ended up just looking for one of the lecturers, Dr. Phil Hanna, who is a genius, by the way. Yes, he is. So he was taking games design modules, so I had to kind of hunt him out and beg him to take me for a master's project. So from that, I worked on some research into like terrain generation and rendering and stuff, and just got really into graphics programming. And from there, ended up building this sci-fi game engine over the last couple of years, on and off. Just spend a little bit of time here and there, like on generating galaxies and rendering planets and stuff like that. Start of last year, in January last year, put the whole engine together and finally had to like pick a game to develop out of it, and it was going to be either a sandbox or a 4X game, like Civilization. And I couldn't really pick which one to do, and then really we just sat down and thought, what game's feasible with absolutely no budget, and it's not the massive sandbox. We've kind of been developing that on and off throughout the year. Some people have repeatedly told me throughout the year things like I can't do certain things. People will say, for example, don't go on Kickstarter. Said no one's ever successful on Kickstarter. You'll not raise any of the money you need there. Kind of proved them wrong. One of the things a lot of people don't know is I developed a game in C#. I'm actually using XNA, and for anyone who tells you that you cannot use a certain tool, like you can't use XNA for proper game development, there are several games out there that are actually using it. And it's not about what tool you're using, it's about what you can make using those tools. And a lot of the time it's, the tool isn't there in the engine, whatever you're doing it with, and you just have to develop your own. And that's another thing. A lot of people would say, don't roll your own tech because just learn how to use Unity, how to use engine or source engine or something, just use a pre-built engine. But really, if you roll your own tech, development goes a lot faster because you know your own code inside out. Whenever you can't do something's not quite working, you can go, right, I'm going to go back and change the engine to make it work. You can hack things together in a way that you really can't if you're using off-the-shelf stuff. Not to everyone's liking, I suppose, but it's really sped up development on the actual game for me, so it's a big deal. Some people told us things like certain graphics things, like we have a planet render where you can zoom right down to the surface of the planet or up again and everything. People said, no, that's not feasible. Get that idea out of your head. You can't do that, and you definitely can't do it in XNA. Proved them wrong. It's running on a like 5-year-old PC right now, which is falling to bits.
Falling to bits.
Literally like hard drive failing, keyboard being held together with sticky tape, falling to bits. Thankfully now we've got Kickstarter money in for some new equipment.
Just don't blow the whole budget on buying 1 million DAS keyboards.
One DAS keyboard.
And a ducky for me and a triple backlight.
But,
Lifestyles of the rich and famous.
But
that's our planet.
Yeah. I can't draw. But yeah, no, we stuck with 4X because it was cheap and it was workable what we had. University starts ideas. I don't know. Kickstarter works because we researched it. Didn't really say that actually. But yeah, Kickstarter works if you research it. The major pitfall with Kickstarter is it's very, very easy to post something up and go, I'm awesome. But the really, really hard bit comes when you actually need to make people stand up.
If you go up on Kickstarter now, you'll see loads of projects from the UK, loads of them from Belfast and stuff, because it shows you all your local ones. And they're all sitting at £0. These people have just put them up and assumed that there's some kind of magic community there is going to put money in. The interesting thing we found is that there is a Kickstarter community. There are people who do just go to Kickstarter, they have Kickstarter memberships, they go put money on games. And then you need to go out of your own support, you need to get a good bit of actual backing. We like got people locally, just anyone we knew to pitch their support in the first day, try to get media coverage in the first day. Yes. Effort equals dollars.
Yeah, your effort means Kickstarter dollars, and we find 50-50 ratio. What we raised, like for our own marketing and work and all the rest.
It's about 55, slightly
Yeah,
more
slightly
from
more.
Kickstarter,
Slightly
so
more, yeah.
we put in the effort to get
Like the
people
initial ball rolling.
to get the
sort of
ball
thing.
rolling, and then Kickstarter just acted as like a multiplier. So if anyone was actually thinking of, trying to crowdsource funding for something on your own website or just via PayPal or something, it's a bad idea. You just get extra money if you go on Kickstarter.
Speaking of bad ideas, we should probably say some of the things that we messed up on. Like along the way. And had to fix quite quickly.
I haven't messed up on anything ever, so.
That's what I'm here for, to be sure it doesn't. But yeah, no, the video was probably our first mistake.
Our first video was, I originally made it like 8 minutes long.
Oh, longer. The original script, I cut that too.
The original script was something like 12 minutes. We managed to cut it down, we're really ruthless, cut it down to 6.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Put it out there, and immediately we had people on websites and things saying the video's really long, but there's a good bit if you wait.
Your timing's still not improved. Well, we'll let you go.
We just
keep going.
Okay. Ended up just cutting huge parts of it out and ended up with just a 3-minute video. Just here is the game, here's gameplay, here's what it looks like, here's why we need your money. Thanks, the end. Sure, sweet, it worked.
Yeah, and increased the views considerably.
A couple of other things were
Pledge tiers.
we didn't. Some of our pledge tiers got absolutely no action at all. And there were experiments. We had no idea who would go for what. We had one where we had this idea that people would be able to, like, if they pledged $1,000, they would be like a studio founder member, and we'd give them all kinds of perks stuff, and we'd make a little plaque and put their name on it, and all amazing. Comment for it. To give them something awesome, so we say, right, you can design a race in our game. Design one of the races. We'll get our character artist to work with you, come up with some ideas for the stats and stuff you want and how you want them to be in the game. Immediately loads of people jumped on it. people, I think.
Yeah, 7 out of 100. 1,000, sorry.
And there were a whole bunch more, like 500 for to design like a level in the game. Loads of people will put in a lot of money just to get some kind of authorship in your game.
What was the biggest donation that you got?
1,020 something. I think he added a bit more on for.
He did a couple of bolt-ons, yeah.
We did a thing like at the very, very end of the campaign where we had, for our last 6 hours, we had a live stream. We just said, everyone, right, we're just gonna jump on Google Hangout, get a bunch of us together. You guys can jump on whatever. We'll just talk about stuff and answer your questions. And it was massive. We ended up getting what, $7 grand in that last 6 hours. It's huge. Like if you saw the graph of our funding, it goes up like this, and then just right at the end, like a hockey stick. It was really good.
The project, it helped us enormously. Just talking to people, like every single backer.
You get a real buzz around it as well, because if you've basically got all of your most enthusiastic backers in one place, and you're talking directly to them, answering questions and stuff, and they're running around frantically going, oh, there's only an hour left, I have to spread this to every website I've ever heard of. It works though, it did help. And we got the system for ideas. Some people said, well, I would have pledged a little bit more for this or that, and we're like, go ahead, go do that. It pledged like $15 extra and you can name a star, done, and people just added it at the last minute.
Just in case anyone's wondering, I think there is a planet Farset now.
Yeah.
There's a star called Farset.
Yeah, there's a star called Farset.
And I'm tempted to, we're going to have now, because we hit a huge goal, we hit 50,000, so we were able to do a full single player campaign. That was the goal. And we're going to have the Star Farset is going to have to be a research place. A lot of research artifacts or something there.
We'll just happily segue into Q&A, so things are not started.
I'm wondering, is that necessarily a good idea? Because
I'm thinking how
would
to
they
find
break it or do something stupid or, you know...
No, because we write it, we code it, we do all that stuff. They just kind of tell us what they want, and then we make it happen. And it all has to fit in with our own canon and our own lore, and that's all, explained to them and things like that. So, it's kind of, they have authorship, but under my thumb.
Right, so you're trying to filter out the more stupid ideas, so just kind of imagine that monsters,
Exactly, I said, I'm not going to have 100 stars called shitbag, thanks very much. Maybe one.
We do have a dog race.
Yeah, there was a guy came up with an idea for a dog race. He says, oh, I want this dog race. I thought he was trolling. He said, I want them to be really loyal so they don't break alliances, and dogs are good at fetching things, so they should... he's got to be trolling. Turns out, no, he just wanted a dog race. So we worked with him on the idea and fleshing out, saying, oh yeah, that will work with this mechanic, and eventually he pledged to design his own race.
We talked about from $25 to $1,000.
Oh, there was a couple of brilliant ones.
There was some brilliant talking happened.
We talked a couple of people up from like $25 and $50 to $500, and one or two people up to $1,000. Just talking to them.
They're already enthusiastic, and most of them just need a tiny little push. If you've ever worked in retail, do you ever see when people are standing in the shop and they're kind of going, and they just need one reason? It doesn't even have to be a good reason. It can be the worst reason ever. Just need one reason to do that. Well, that guy with the dog race, I was just like, dude, you have this brilliant race all planned out. Are you really gonna not just sit there and kick yourself? Kick yourself if that's not in the game now when it comes out. And he was like, you're right, bye.
That's it. Some people actually do just have like $1,000 Kickstarter budget for the month and go, to pledge on some random games.
It's all you. That's it.
Do you see the ownership to any of your backers?
No, that's actually something that Kickstarter you cannot give that away. They don't let you. So there's no
legally
ownership.
they can't.
Yeah, legally, there's no shareholder. I think you really can 100% of everything. You also don't have to pay any of the money back. System, you give them rewards for pledging a certain amount. So the most popular reward for any game would be the lowest price tier at which you get a copy of the game. People just go, I like the look of that. I throw $25 and hopefully get a game out of it. And do you know, there's a lot of people worrying about people succeeding on Kickstarter and then the game failing. And it turns out that if you talk to a lot of people who fund Kickstarters who go on and throw money in games, they say, no, I expect 1 out of 4 to fail. They say they just throw money at all these projects, and if they get a couple of good games out of it, it's better. In fact, it's a better cost ratio than if you were to just go out into buy the next AAA title that just came out for 60 quid and you don't know if it's going to be any good. And all the reviews are paid for and everything as well, so they, I mean, it could have good reviews and still be crap.
In your funding structure, the bulk of the expenses, where do you go to?
Mostly the cost of living, so that we can work full time.
Yeah,
That's the big switch.
Stephen is the art director, and I'm the project manager, and Brenton is like the lead developer, and we all live under one roof. So we set up a home studio, and that just kept costs cheap as chips, which is why we could have a budget so low to make, something quite big. Yeah. So
the idea is to grow from there. Like after the first game comes out, if we get a decent amount of sales or anything, we can scale up.
Yeah.
Was Kickstarter the first kind of one you looked towards, or did you try other places?
Well, we tried looking through grants and stuff, but they're very time based. They take if you miss them, like we missed a grant by a month. We got to just too late, just closed.
Just as we were starting in January, we were starting out with the firm idea of what we were going for.
And they take at least 6 months before you can get a word back or anything. It's very long time to be waiting on the funding. So Kickstarter is not just basically free money.
Yeah, it takes a lot of research. Like we started planning Kickstarter in March,
April,
and we didn't put up our Kickstarter there until November. So.
A lot of research went into it.
One more question then, Paul. Crowdfunding platforms that where you give equity for your for the donations, but there's one locally here as well, but I don't know if any are actually off the ground yet. Yeah, right. There's loads around that kind of, but I don't know.
So they obviously mentioned the Kickstarter work. We obviously when you did all the research. Late Dangerous is the 3rd edition of the Elite series that's recently distributed together. Got its funding by Kickstarter just a few weeks ago. But it suffered from the problem where they didn't research properly the sort of market we're heading towards and what we're getting for your pledge towards them. So they had a lot of late additions to the pledge thing in order to gain their final funding. That obviously might have effects with regards to the quality of the game post release of it, with regards to all the perks you've already got. What compromises have you had to make in order to secure your funding, or have you had to make any at all? How did you manage to?
Well, whenever we were putting the campaign together, we were trying to keep the cost as low as possible, as low a minimum goal as we could. So we stripped out so many features, like big art features, like we had a 3D ship designer plans and everything, kind of like Space Lego. We had like multiplayer, online multiplayer, and single player campaign, a full story campaign and everything. We had to strip all of those things out to bring our base cost down to the 25k, and then we added those as stretch goals, and we managed to hit most of them.
Yeah, we were lucky enough. We hit like everything bar one stretch goal.
The one thing Elite did really wrong was they launched before really showing anything off. They like launched with no video, with
which is a sin.
I mean, lucky enough, a lot of people saw it and went, click that remind me button, so they'll get the 48-hour reminder at the end. Probably the same as I did, just click it and go, maybe they'll upload something interesting. And fair enough, they came out with amazing gameplay videos and stuff toward the end. It seems like even Project Goddess was going to fail before they put up gameplay video, before they put up some kind of prototype. Solid proof that you have, here's the game and here's what it's going to be like. So,
and if you're new, you have to show the people as well and prove that they can do what they say they can.
Definitely. people just want proof that there's a reasonable chance they're going to actually get a game out of this, that they're going to fund something that will actually happen.
Okay, thanks very much.
Well done.
And I'm waiting for my copy. Right, yes, I do think we need to get that.
It's pretty.
I wish I had someone who followed me around and put my ideas on a blackboard. I think there's a market opportunity there. I mean, it's kind of,
You can hire her for expensive
You could get it to Kickstarter.
I refuse to make any stretch goal jokes.
I hate you.
Isn't it so good that we're working together? Right. Okay. I actually really don't want to destroy that, so I won't. Okay. Right. Next up, out there, not too much fanfare. Dylan, you're up. Following on from simulating a universe to simulating the universe.
I didn't really mind, but I need a blackboard.
Go ahead. Right. You can do it. I'm not doing it. You can do it.
I'm not particularly precious about my chalk scribbles, it's fine.
Is there a clock about?
Yeah,
Yes,
it's just in the
in
chalk
the
scribbles.
Go for it, another one forever.
I can't do it.
Do you want me to do it?
If you don't mind.
It's such a British ritual, right? You make it beautiful, and you have to do this, right?
Don't worry, we'll have.
Someday that's going to happen to our planet.
The best thing is, I don't know whether everyone knows about this, but we do have the time-lapse camera mounted up in the corner, so this is going to make for a fantastic time-lapse.
It goes on the front.
That's fine, yeah.
There you go.
Right, well, my name is Dylan. I'm currently studying physics at Queen's. I kind of wanted to do a bit of a talk on quantum mechanics, sort of teach people some stuff. But I did a bit of Google and I found rubbish, and it's just what you find. But I found that instead. I find this guy, he's called Silas Bean. He's a physicist. Now he's a physicist called Mr. Bean. Now, okay. He's unlucky there, but he's studying what's called quantum chromodynamics. Basically, what he's doing is he's a very, very powerful computer, a supercomputer, and he's putting on what's called a three-dimensional atlas. Now I'm going to try and draw this, but it's going to be really bad. So bear with me. So yeah, he's got this sort of drawing here, running on a computer. It's 3D. Now what he's doing is he's putting in the four fundamental forces of nature into this lattice, trying to simulate a tiny, tiny corner of the universe. At the moment, he's got around 1 times 10 to the minus 15 meters of the universe, and that's a very tiny space. Obviously, it's 0.15 knots, 1 of a meter. It's not very big. But if you all know about Moore's law, if that sticks, if that continues applying, and that's optimistic, if properly won, within 100 years, that tiny, tiny box will grow to about a 2 meter box, and that's enough to fit a human being into. He's saying that in 100 years, he might be able to simulate all the particles in a human body, and that's ridiculous. But even further, in 500 years, he'll be able to simulate 1 times 10 to the 26. That's 1/26 zeros of a meter, or a whole meter, sorry. Now think about that. That's the size of the observable universe. He's saying in 500 years we'll have sufficient computing power, assuming Moore's law stays correct, to simulate a whole universe. Now the consequences of that are ridiculous. So what we're going to do is what we're going to think about is, let's say here in Farset, we're going to make our own universe. We're going to simulate it. So anyone have any ideas for a name for starters?
The Sims universe.
The Sims?
Seems thinking about how to market it.
Okay, the Sims universe. Okay, we'll call it that. Now, what can we expect in this universe? First of all, in this lattice here, the mathematics kind of basically say whenever you have a particle travelling in it, it will tend to follow these lines. And whenever it's travelling through space, it will just head towards these sort of boundaries. And that's we see this stuff called GZD. Now it's a German name, I can't remember what it's called, so I'm not going to try and explain it to you. But basically, this is happening. These particles tend towards this line in our universe. That kind of hints that, is our universe being simulated too? Is that possible? Well, we'll look at it some more. I don't know if you've heard of it, but there's a thing called the Heisenberg uncertainty theory, or Heisenberg uncertainty principle, sorry. And it basically says you have a particle. This particle has a few properties. It has momentum, which is the mass times its velocity, the rate it's travelling through space. It also has a position in space. Now, when you look closer to the particle, the more you know about its momentum, the way it's travelling through space, the less you know about where it is. It's a bit confusing, I know. So basically it means there's some sort of limit on how much you can know about this particle. Now, if you're any sort of software developer, you'll know there's memory allocation issues. So what I'm saying is the Heisenberg uncertainty principle comes from the fact that the simulation, the computer that's running our universe is not good enough, basically. Yes, don't worry. It'll disappear. But yeah, and there's also another fact in quantum mechanics called superposition. Basically, it means that a particle can be in more than one place at once. And that's a bit weird, okay? But believe me, it happens. I'll give a quick example. Back in, I'm not sure, David, when was the double slit experiment first sort of done?
I think it was 1920s, 30s, what was it called? I read it right.
But yeah, basically what they did was they got a sort of piece of, imagine a piece of wood with two slits in it. Now classically, if I was to put that here and shine, say, a water wave, we pour a water wave through it, you'll get a pattern emerging showing that it's intrinsic because the water is a wave, whereas if you put tennis balls through it, in fact, I'm going to draw them.
Early 1800s, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Well,
yeah, when you put a water wave through the double slit kind of pattern, you get kind of a sort of big heavy line in the middle. Double slit, you'll get just two straight lines where the slits are, which makes sense. Now on the quantum level, we're going to talk about photons instead. Whenever you throw photons through a double slit, you get that interference pattern, because it's related to the fact that the wave interferes with each other when it goes through the wavefronts. Now what happens is, whenever you put one photon at a time through the slit, you get something a little bit different. Now you would expect, if you're going to put one, well, let's imagine a little ball of matter flying through a double slit. How could you possibly get that? You're flying tennis balls through two slits. There's no way you can get that, but it happens. And the only plausible explanation this is happening is because the photon is interfering with itself. It's going through both slits at the same time. Now there's an easy way to see what's happening. Just put a detector on both slits. It tells you which slit it's going to go through. Like it'll send off some sort of message saying it's going through this slit. When we do that, it changes just by looking at the system. The system changes completely. It changes into that of a particle, which is all a bit strange. Now a software developer can explain that. As efficiency, we're only calculating variables when we need to. When we look at it, the variable has been calculated. But yeah, it poses a lot of interesting questions, and a lot of scientists have done a lot of work into it. If you've ever read Wolfram, he's done a thing called A New Kind of Science, which is sort of talking about how simple programs, like a very simple rule, can create very complex output. His idea is that the entire universe can be condensed into one line of information. One line of code can produce the information in the universe. And it sort of makes sense because as a physicist, the ultimate goal is to try and sort of pull it back, the very most fundamental things we're trying to find, the most fundamental law, the theory of everything. One law might decide the entire universe, and that's what Wolfram's trying to do. So yeah, anything else, any questions or anything relating to that?
well, what would you do with your idea of this?
Sorry? Does he know how to ask serious questions? This is pseudoscience.
So obviously that's sigma x, sigma p, so it's the standard deviation, isn't it, between position, momentum,
constant.
Planck's constant, yeah.
Scotland.
So, why do you think that Planck's constant, 10 to the negative 34 joule seconds is that figure in this universe? Why do you think that sort of, that granularity has come out?
Because of the boundaries between these lines.
So you're essentially saying our universe is being simulated in crap AMD hardware, yeah?
ARM.
Well, here, we just not the Pentium.
Logic gaming.
It's a limitation of the hardware. I don't actually believe this, by the way. I just think it's fun. But it's a limitation of the hardware we might theoretically be running on. And the question is, so how high is it? I mean, we're being simulated in an old universe. Is that universe also being simulated in an old universe? Even then, let's think about it in terms of how many other. Well, look at the number of planets in the universe. It's billions and billions and billions, as Carl Sagan would say. And the chances of another civilization being 500 years ahead of us is then quite high. So in our universe, there could be similar simulations running on. There is universes inside ours. Anyone else?
The inception rules apply, so now a simulation within a simulation goes really, really fast.
Hopefully. That'd be quite cool, yeah, who knows? We could then simulate a universe and make it go faster than ours and see what's going to happen in the future.
That's cheap.
But then what about if a computer in your simulation can simulate faster than the computer
Don't
that's
try and
running the
think about it.
simulation?
Your brain will explode.
5 by 0.
Reverse inception. Anyone else?
Second simulation would be centuries, wouldn't it?
I think that's a pub conversation.
What do you think the implications are? I'm trying to remember exactly which way around it is. There's one interpretation of quantum mechanics that says that everything, the uncertainty is dictated because it's so within its closed system, you kind of have it exactly. But that therefore human consciousness or any animal consciousnesses that we have yet discovered, sentient, is outside of this closed system. So do you think that there's then that our consciousness is outside of this simulation of the universe because it can affect the matter within the universe in a way that's not consistent with the way other matter?
I mean,
I don't even understand.
I think the TLDR for that was the Matrix.
It really depends what you define as consciousness. It really defines what you define as consciousness. I mean, we are just a bunch of atoms rolling about, and maybe consciousness is just an illusion.
See, that's depressing.
I think that's a really good point at which to end this. Right, thanks very much, Dylan. Just a subtle reminder that there is still a prize up for grabs. So, you know, normally we try and say that, oh, right, your presentation, don't worry about them too much. No one's judging you. This time, they are. So, sorry, deal with it, but it's all fun and games. Okay, just to move things on swiftly. Really? Hacktivism. Go on. Yeah.
So,
Are you happy with the recording? We were talking about this
Yeah, I'm
earlier?
fine.
Yes, good.
yeah, I feel quite unprepared. That was like a really quick decision to talk about my research. I probably should have had a beer beforehand, and I apologize for my English. I'm actually German or Austrian and speak German, and I try to be as clear as possible. I'm a Queen student doing a master's degree in political psychology. I did my bachelor degree at the University of Vienna and was doing my final thesis about the Pirate Party in Austria, which somehow made me have a link to that whole topic of internet, cyberspace, and somehow made me interested in that topic, and I'm trying to get that PhD as well. And now I'm writing my master thesis about stereotypes. The idea is actually that I'm gonna plan to do research with two stages, having people from an in-group and an out-group. In-group would imply people who have a technical background, who would be able to hack or actually are hacktivists themselves. That's the reason why there's a paper hanging outside in the front row and when you enter the door where you find my email address. If you're interested in taking part in the research, I'm looking for interview partners, and I would welcome you very much to contact me if you have further questions, or just want to know what I'm doing and how the research is like progressing. As I said, it's like a research in 2 stages, and the participant number are 12, or at least that it's planned. 6 people coming from the broad civil society, so meaning like they have no technical background, they know how to switch on a PC, but that's basically it. And the other part, the other 6 participants have the IT background, and I'd like to analyze how people are picturing hacktivists. They have become fairly well known through the attacks from Anonymous, etc. So if you just would go into your in yourself and like close your eyes for a minute and think of it, how would you picture a hacktivist? That's what I'm trying to analyze, and like to compare the stereotypes applied by people with in the in-group and the out-group. And I'd like to see where these stereotypes are rooted. So I want to see if they differ in between those groups, but also between genders. So the goal is to have like 3 females in each group. That's going to be quite tricky, I think, with the IT group, but I hope I'm going to be able to do that. And as I said, like 3 times already, there are 2 stages. The first stage is like interviews, face-to-face interviews with people from with all the participants. They are semi-structured, and as I said, like there are no personal details stored. So if anyone is in fact hacktivist or does illegal stuff, I will not publish that. It's confidential, and it's a content. That's the reason why I'm just doing interviews. At the second stage is like I'm planning to do the interviews now, so please contact me as soon as you've decided to take part or not. And they will, the interviews will take part in February till mid-March. And after that, I'm trying to analyze the results. And then there will be the second stage, which are focus groups, meaning that like 6 or like 3 people or 6 people, depending how many people are welcoming to take part in the second stage, are meeting up. And the focus group is meant to be like there is a discussion between all people. So it's not just the researcher and the participant anymore, it's like the whole group. And there, the results will be discussed, and we will, like what has been analyzed will be the main issue of the second part. Yeah, and that's the research so far. I have not had any results yet, but so far I can tell that there is barely nothing on the topic so far from a psychological background. There is a lot about it from a technical security point of issue in terms of hacktivism, but also from a sociological point of view. So I'm looking forward to the results and hope I can also publish them afterwards. So yeah.
Okay, thanks very much. Right, questions? This is going to be fun. Well, I'm going to start off with one. Do you have any hypotheses yet?
Yes.
What do you think?
I can't tell. I'm not allowed to because the research is planned to not bias participants. So if
Is there any historical? Has there been any sort of? Will you be able to look back and say, well, there's a similar study, and this is how the stereotypes?
There's similar studies done on gamers. So Hacktivist itself has not been analyzed that way so far, but there is in the IT sector there are a lot of studies done in stereotypes and the gamer scene. Yeah, it's quite popular, the gamer scene at the moment. So there are a lot of papers published at the moment. Any other questions? Yeah.
Can I have a thing?
Yeah. Anything else?
Do you think our law enforcement agencies influenced by stereotypes of hackers? I'm thinking of the way that the Orange Sports case was.
Yeah, I think not even like the law enforcement, but I think that has also far more societal aspect. So who is like doing, like that would be the next topic I've seen. Who is doing studying IT stuff and not, like it has also an issue on if you pick whatever, like I'm not gonna say like what kind of stereotypes, but stereotypes are influencing all of us. So they are somehow also influencing kids already. So I think that has like further going problematic outcomes.
Alright, everyone happy?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks very much. Right, okay, we're getting towards the end. Just in terms of what I'll be doing just after David's last talk, we'll be taking the camera off. Sorry, guys. Well, we might shift it into Google Hangout to make it a little bit more feedback, but we'll be taking down the Ustream. And we'll have that strange thing called an open discussion. So this format doesn't really work very well for an open discussion, so we'll close out the Gathering of Lightning official stuff and then chill out for a bit afterwards and just shoot the shit together. But to close out the Gathering of Lightning stuff, we have Dr. David Laverty talking about smart grids.
Where's the duster for the board? Because my graphics are not going to be as impressive. But we'll go for it anyway. Yeah, so I lecture up in Queens in electrical engineering. I am a member of the Energy, Power and Intelligent Control Group, which was not chosen because it spells epic. It's a handy coincidence. And my specialist subject is smart grids, which if you hear a politician talk about smart grid's the answer to everything. Fossil fuels running out, don't worry, we've got smart grid. What is smart grid? We all see these things. Crucially, helps defer investment. So instead of having to build new pylons to increase the capacity of the system, we use computers to adjust how it operates, and that keeps our electricity bills down. Apart from the fact that fossil fuels are going way up, so the electricity bill goes up anyway. But it goes up less quickly than it otherwise would. Now, the subtitle of my talk is Smart Grids or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Put the Kettle On. Now, the reason for this is that, okay, we all know about global warming and climate change and how important it is not to use fossil fuels and to use sustainable energy. But let's take the scenario of standard house. I'm inspired by the Lego discussion on Facebook with Andrew earlier that really I should have been building a Lego house at the back of the room, but
If someone wants to donate a metric ton of Lego, I will change the world. Yes, we now have jumble books in the lounge.
okay, so what types of energy do we use in the house? First off, we have electricity. But what other ones? That's an open question to the floor.
Oil fired.
Okay, central heating, so the oil, and of course gas. What other types of energy are we going to be using?
Rage.
Rage?
Solar. Here. Weird.
Not strictly speaking part of the house, but what do you put in your car?
Someone here is using a plasma Tesla coils.
Yeah. Well, we'll not go that deep. We'll just put that under electricity for the meantime. Okay, so put petrol into this mix as well.
I was going to add vegetable oil.
Vegetable oil, yeah. No, I've got a friend who will try and burn literally anything. So we'll not go into the types of energy he uses, but okay, so put this into the pie chart. Trying to remember this. But electrical energy consumption accounts for roughly about it's between about a third and 40% of the energy that we use. Not strictly speaking all down to domestic energy, that includes but like total energy consumption in the world, about 40% of that is used via the medium of electricity. The rest of it, a large chunk of this would be sort of about 25% goes into transport, and now I'm tired and I can't remember what this adds up to. That's what 35 is space heating.
What's your occupation again?
Shut up! It's late. Now where was I going with this? Right. Okay, these yokes. Everybody's in favorism, right? Who said they were ugly? Shut up! Wind turbines, okay. We're going to increase, or we're going to improve our energy supply by generating more electricity sustainably. That's great. That fills in this chunk. So currently Ireland's one of the world leaders in sustainable energy. At the moment there are days that typically occur during the winter, sort of, well actually they can occur any time from September through to about March, but it tends to be in around this time of year, where about 50% of our energy is actually derived from wind. And that's because the electricity grid is running light. There's not an awful lot of people using electricity during the night hours, and it's very windy. So we can get up to about 50%. But if we look at in terms of energy, if we average it out through the entire year, in Ireland we can make something about 14% of our energy from wind. Now even if we increase that to 100%, that means there's still 60% of this chunk is still coming from fossil fuels. So the upshot is that we have to start using electricity to do transport and space heating. Well, how am I for time, Andrew?
You're about halfway through.
Oh, am I? I'm doing a lot better than I thought. I can bore you some more. The reason my subtitle is I'm going to stop worrying and put the kettle on is because what do you always hear people say when they're doing an environmental show on the TV? They'll cut to some guy who usually some survivalist who's trying to live in off the grid and stuff. And one of his tips is, oh, and always only put in exactly 1 cup into the kettle. Yeah, of course you put 1 cup into the kettle because you live alone. But, okay, so we'll have our wee kettle. Right, so primary objective here is getting hot water to make a cup of tea, right? Well, what happens if we make too much water, or too much hot water? Well, it's going to sit there, right, and go radiate off heat into the room. Now, assuming that you're actually at home when you boiled the kettle and you didn't just turn the kettle on and then go out to work, which is a surprising number of times. But like, assuming you've come home and you've decided to make a cup of tea, what's the worst case scenario here about leaving too much hot water in the kettle?
You've heated your home.
You've heated your home. So what you've done is you've actually contributed to here. So you're actually helping the problem. Now, obviously what we want to do is maybe go somewhere a bit more sophisticated than asking people to be absent-minded and overfill the kettle. And we want to actually start to put storage heaters in here. Now, we all remember Economy 7. What's the first thing that you say whenever you see, like, an estate agent's brochure, this house has Economy 7?
Fire hazard.
There's that. But I always think to the milkman and Father Ted, UHT milk, no, nobody wants that because it's shite. So, what we need to do is to develop technology so that we can put storage heaters into homes, but they actually work to produce heat when you're actually at home. So what we need is a sophisticated system, well, not too sophisticated by modern standards, where imagine it was feasible that people had some sort of a computer system of some kind that was maybe wireless, that could talk to this storage heater, and whenever it's windy and wind farms are producing lots of heat, this smart grid, if you will, could tell the storage heater to charge up. This means that rather than relying only on the storage heater with heat during the night, the idea there was to use at night, and especially in Great Britain, is to avoid shutting down nuclear. Now we can actually do this any time of the day. Whenever it's windy, we can start to run the storage heater up. That means that it should be hot throughout the day, so that any time you come home, you have heat on tap. Likewise for transport, which I'm guessing the buzzing means I'm out of time.
I don't think that was ever going to stop you anyway.
Yeah. I'll stop here because, likewise for transport, what we need to do is to change our cars so that we have some sort of a electrical energy storage system in the back of it. And hopefully I'll soon be announcing our project to turn a classic 1980s sports car that you can take from this, what you will, into an electric vehicle. Thanks very much.
Right, let her rip. More about the project.
More about the project?
Can I throw in a completely naive, dangerously optimistic concept and you can shoot it down and tell me why it's all wrong?
Okay.
So I don't really understand the whole energy problem, and there's obviously a lot of energy on the planet. I just think it seems that we're just bad at getting it, and we use really destructive methods to do so. So isn't the problem more about trying to get money or resources over to come up with either a cold fusion or something that's going to basically give us all the energy we need with very little environmental damage, and then we don't have to worry about the chemicals and stuff.
Yeah, I guess the issue with fusion is that I'm a believer in it, whereas Colin, who have countless debates on this subject, he assures me that it definitely won't work. I try to assure myself that it definitely will work.
It'll work. It's just like, well, it might work. It might work.
You might have a
within
simulator.
50 or 60 years.
Yeah, but like,
Global warming will
but like I was.
if you continue to do it, I think you're on track to sort of 4 or 5 degrees C temperature rise before you get to the point where you have operational fusion power.
So it's about slowing it down until we can find a better solution rather than trying to reverse the trend now.
We need, in terms of CO2, to reverse the trend, or you need to reverse the trend just to slow down temperature.
Right.
Yeah, in terms of even renewable energy sources, Ireland's in a nice position in that our climate is terrible for some, but it's great for fluids with lots of kinetic energy, i.e. wind, waves and tides and stuff. The problem is really that they don't come when you need it. So we need to store the energy. So, if we're happy with putting a big dam up in the Mourne Mountains and flooding them, yes, that will work. But yeah, exactly. Some people say they're nice for walking in, which is also true. So it's really a compromise there. Likewise, in Armagh, there's a photograph of a bunch of protesters with the mayor of Armagh saying that we don't want pylons, we want wind turbines. The pylons are for wind turbines. The energy is to get to the grid. So yeah, there's a lack of education surrounding our energy infrastructure. So yeah, there is a lot of energy. You use it particularly well. From an environmental point of view, my attitude is that lots of stuff like Annika Rice was on the TV one time talking about how, and it's really, really important, see your mobile phone charger, you have to unplug that. I actually worked out that, for me to religiously do that every night would end up saving me somewhere in the region of about 12p a year. So it's going like, well, it does help, but, I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
There's more than just you with your charger plugged in, so...
Yeah, but how about just buy less stuff? It's the embodied energy. So instead of going out going, oh crap, new iPhone, keep 5-year-old Nokia phone.
I'm a field not, yeah.
So yeah.
But even if we have a universal charger or something.
But the point is as well.
Apple fucked it up.
But remember the thing about the charger, it's wasting heat. It's going back into here.
Do you not think wind turbine, wind is a really bad option if everyone switches over to it?
Well, yeah.
I don't know how true this is, but I remember doing physics, and then what my physics teacher was saying was like energy can't be created or destroyed. So if everyone's on wind turbines, the wind system is going to get messed up, which will mess up everything even more.
No, he's kind of he's kind of overplaying that one. No, the bigger issue is that to meet Ireland's energy needs, like to completely fill this pie chart with wind, would mean basically having to have a wind turbine like every 100 meters there would be another wind turbine. So there is enough land to do it. Yeah. It's just it would start to get a bit ridiculous. So we'll have to look at marine energy really, where the energy and flow of water is, you know, it's orders of magnitude greater than in the air. Plus also the tides are predictable. Might not necessarily come when we need the energy, but because they are so predictable, we can plan to change the way we use energy to benefit from it.
What are the economic challenges to, I guess, the main challenges to energy storage? One of the main problems I've seen is that energy storage is, should I say, uneconomical.
Yeah.
The technology or what's in the pipeline to store.
Energy storage is the guy from Falling Down with the not economically viable sign, like, yeah, I hear it. No, the thing is, like, it's civil engineering basically is energy storage. You know, it's pumping water up mountains and flooding valleys and stuff. It's all very expensive. It's probably at the point now where we're starting to think of, well, again, I hate this idea that we stick everything out to sea and bury it under the oceans, but we're starting to look at ideas where we fill up bags in the oceans with compressed air, and then the pressure of the water released back in the turbine allows us to recover the energy. Those sorts of storage schemes start to make sense when you do them in really massive industrial size scales. There's also ideas about using the batteries in electric vehicles as like very incredibly short-term storage systems, so that if there's a sudden shortfall in wind energy, the battery in an electric vehicle can give like 30 seconds to 1 minute of energy to allow short-term generation on the grid, such as diesel, to be run up, to allow then the economically viable stations like nuclear ones to respond, because nuclear can't respond quickly. So we'll have to have, it takes a suite of options. Essentially the main problem with going entirely wind is that some days it's just not windy. Like February, the entire month of February, January, there isn't any wind. We need to see this February, it'll completely windy all the time. But generally speaking, there's not a lot of wind in February.
Okay. Flywheels, there's a lot of things. Yeah, civic flywheels or
yeah.
At some point. I know there's somebody in New York that have a 20 megawatt flywheel apparently.
Yeah, again, data centers use flywheels a lot, sort of spin up like 30,000 RPM, and they can deliver 10 megawatts. But they can deliver 10 megawatts for about 10 seconds. So the thing is, they're there to keep the system alive, so that there isn't a sudden shock in both the chemical storage and batteries, and also to give enough time for the diesel engines in the data center to spin up. It's quite interesting. A typical hospital would have a diesel generator power failure, and the way in the hospital is whenever the power is lost from the grid, critical systems are on batteries, but the rest of the systems aren't. So whenever the grid's lost, it tries to start up the first generator. If the first generator fails to start, then it tries to start up the second generator, and if that fails to start, they've got a problem. In a data center, what they'll do is, if they need one generator, they buy 6. If there's a power failure, all 6 generators start simultaneously, and then they switch 4 off that they don't need and keep 2 on, so that if any one of those generators fails, they can then start up another one. So it's quite interesting that, like, in a data center, cannot lose a millisecond of energy supply. In the hospital, it's like, be grand. Phone somebody.
You were saying about, so essentially you've got the smart grid and it's directly communicating then with household appliances. So we already know that NIE's data can be read off if you're willing to break the law. So what happens then whenever you've got people like some of the people in this room who would maybe make use of some holes in protocols in a smart grid? We're already seeing increasingly sophisticated attacks from nation states on industrial control equipment. So what happens whenever, say, I don't know, Maybe has a crack at NIE's security.
But the security will be really good.
This isn't stand-up.
No, we'll use the best practice.
So you're essentially
Norton
screwed.
Wylie.
Right,
Andrew, help.
I don't think we can torment him for much longer. Right, it's now fall on me to close proceedings. Okay, so now the fun bit, you all get to pass judgment on all the people. Right, we'll keep this nice and short and sweet, and then I'll say some goodbye. Going from left to right and vaguely top to bottom, hands up for Willis. Okay. Hands up for Niall and the Amazing Snowflakes. Okay. You could. No one's going to be policing the vote, but if you're taking the piss, I will call you out on it, Siobhan. Right. Okay. We'll go for Dr. Lavery Smart Grids. Okay.
Is this principle vote, you know, sort of thing?
Look, we're all Ulstermen, so. Alright, Brendan and the Predestination guys.
I'd like to give another vote to crowdsourcing.
Yeah. Go ahead. You know, people are free to argue with my vote at the end. So, yeah, right, Predestination. Yep, okay. Leonie. The Hacktivism and okay, that was very good. Colin.
We have PR, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4.
We could be here all night. Okay. Dylan. Simulating the end of the world.
Who's going to be the equivalent of the green target?
Right, okay, I think on the face of it, it has to be Mr. Bole. Appears to have got that one. If anyone wants to argue with me, they're more than welcome to, but on behalf of, yes? OLE. BOLE. You know, I'm really sorry, but you're going to have to come up and collect it on his behalf. Yeah?
Oh, okay. Yay!
Right.
You've
got, and now to present and give a little bit of a spiel about you know, the fantastic work that the BCS do in plying us all with beer and pizza. Go ahead.
Also, thanks very much, Andrew. Those know me, I'm Paul Hannah, I'm chairman of the Belfast branch here, so I'm all extremely interested in
Paul, if you want to get this on YouTube, you're going to have to go across a bit.
Right, no problem. Thank you very much, everybody. Hugely entertaining, evening, of discussions and what have you. And congratulations to the winner as well. Bit of publicity, we have an event on next week, CPE skills in the Armada Hotel. To the BCS Belfast website and registrations there, so everybody's very welcome along. And thank you very much, guys, for hosting us again, and hope everybody enjoyed the pizza. And again, congratulations to the winner. Thank you.
Speech.
Lasers! Oh, wait, there's the camera. Lasers are awesome!
Right, thanks very much, everyone. I have to say that by far and away, this has been what I would definitely term the most successful gathering of lightning ever, so it's really good that this is the first one we recorded. We're going to be sticking around for a while, so if anyone wants to sort of a chat and chill out, and I'll probably ply some people's ears with, the whole sort of gender issues and STEM and that, but we're going to be keeping that to a more sort of person-to-person conversation than me hanging myself in public. But okay, special thanks have to go to the BCS for continuing to support the Gathering Lightning programme. They keep us fed with beer, they keep us drink with pizza. And they actually do. I was surprised whenever we started working with BCS. I didn't have the highest opinion of them. but I have to say, from working with them, they're a fantastic group of people, and they really do good things for the tech scene in Northern Ireland. And long may that mission continue. Also, thanks have to go to the always there, never get rid of Ben Bland for managing the social and camera side of things. P.S. That means you can blame him for all the mic problems.
Not my mic.
Not a camera either. But so right. Beyond that, there's still a few beers in the fridge. There's no
lasers.
A few things about what we're doing in the next couple of weeks that's very, very interesting. Next weekend we've got Global Game Jam, which is going to be really awesome. Basically, we're locking off the space for 48 hours. I'm not going to be here all the time. We will be encouraging people to leave at night. But the idea is you walk in on Friday evening, we'll be announcing, it's part of a worldwide program with, I think it's up to 64 countries and over 300 locations, all building games at the same time. The world. There's fantastic sponsors to the general program like GitHub, Facebook, Microsoft, Unity and Unreal are doing something associated with them. All the information's on the website. That event is going to be sponsored by University of Ulster's Office of Innovation, who, following on from their actual name, are actually trying to help innovation by giving people a chance to play together and hopefully play together to make things that they can play together. So yeah, really worthwhile coming. It's going to be a free event. There's going to be as much munchies as we can get into the place. So that's going to be starting next Friday from around about 5 o'clock and then going through until the Sunday. Please leave on the 9th. But yeah, after that, early in February on the 9th, we've got our second Raspberry Jam. This time we're actually going to try and pass on some knowledge rather than just sharing it. And that's going to be basically we get a load of people doing who have done stuff with the Raspberry Pi and sharing it, because I know from my experience with the Pi, you get this, well in my case you get the chip and then you get this box with some dick on it. And then you start wondering what the hell you're supposed to do with it. And yes, you get it into like a desktop display and you can use it like a normal computer, and then you're sort of asking like what now. I'll be going through and talking about how you can get your Raspberry Pi to actually talk to hardware. Actually, just before I'm going to step back onto the Game Jam thing, we're hoping that our 3D printer is going to be online by the time that we're doing the Game Jam. So one of the things that we're going to be really interesting, and I'm expecting Dragon Slayers to pull out the stops here, is being able to create characters and create character models and create tools and that, because in the physical realm they can be used with their digital stuff. We've got as much RFID stuff as we can pull together that you can use as well. All of the tools in Farset are at people's disposal who come to it. So basically I'm going to be learning how to do my Raspberry Jam talk at the Game Jam. That can only go well. So yeah, that's about it. We are Farset Labs, and you know, all charity and all that stuff. Your money's appreciated. Membership £25 a month for students, £35 a month for everyone else. Yeah, if you think this place is worth it, then you know, whichever company maybe makes any money out of it, they spend. Was it 60 or 70% on rent and
something on rent and then
rent rates and bills?
Yeah, utilities and so on. And
So
the rest is very much exclusively gone out on tools and supplies and toilet roll. So yeah.
it always shocks me how much money we spend on toilet roll.
Zero has gone to anything frivolous. Nothing else in that. So.
Well, no, I never put in that receipt for the shark. But yeah. Okay, no, that's it. We're all done. You don't.
Are you having the digital marketeers next week? Is it worth mentioning?
Yes, we are. Although if someone knew more about it than I did. Yes, yes.
Digital Exchange is a sort of a space where digital marketeers come together with people who work in media like myself and IT and techie people, and they're coming here next Thursday, I believe. And
yep.
We're having an opportunity to tell people about View for NI, so if anyone would like to come along.
Yeah, I've been to a few of the digital exchange stuff, and it's actually really good crack. And they usually have good speakers talking about different aspects of digital marketing and how to get in and how to stay good, which is always a good mix. In terms of other things outside of what we're officially running, we're also hosting next Wednesday Block 54, which is Digital Circles. We're all, for some reason, we've managed to fall into a gaming session for a few weeks, so it should be quite interesting. But basically, that's going to be a collection of indie games developers and games designers and wannabe indie games developers and all that lovely thing, showing off their toys and tools and toolkits and the classic sort of user group style thing. So that's going to be quite interesting. So that's what we're doing, and now you can stick around or leave or.
Can I just add one
Yep.
last thing, which on the topic of
One more thing.
if you do want to keep up with them, you can synchronize our Google Calendar with Farset events to your own, and then I do it.
It's mostly
I
accurate.
know what's going on, so.
But yeah, if you're here, you already know where to hear about all this stuff. So farsetlabs.org.uk and at Farset Labs and Farset Labs on Facebook, and basically if you Google for Farset Labs, you'll find us.
We're even on Google Plus.
We're even on Google Plus. I think the community on Google Plus is now up to 14 members, I think it is. So we've got 320 and 14. The population of the world on Google Plus. But yeah, no, I actually like Google Plus. I'm sorry. Right, okay, so we'll be, if anyone actually wants to have the sort of women in STEM argument / discussion, then we'll take that off camera. Sorry, guys. And then beyond that, thanks very much for coming. It was fantastic crowd. The presenters were absolutely amazing. I was worried there earlier on, sort of whenever we had 3 squares up there, and I was nearly sort of making a wall behind me. And it all came together as things here usually do. Thanks very much, and the questions were fantastic. And go home or stay here. Cheers, guys.